This is the limitless Keith Lee.
This is Brody King.
This is Angel Garza.
Will Ospreay.
Hornswoggle.
Pentagon Jr.
The Mexican Rey Fenix.
King Ricochet.
Concrete Rose, Sunny Kiss.
And I'm here to ask you to stop what you're doing, take just one moment, and bask in the glory of the busted wide open.
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 Boston wide open.
Busted wide open. Thank you.
You're listening to the Busted Wide Open podcast, dropping the elbow on the hottest topics in sports entertainment and the world of professional wrestling. With your hosts, Nick Howell and Sir Ian Dangerous. Coming to you from the Orbital Jigsaw Network Arena in sunny Southern California. Welcome everybody to BWO Live, coming to you from across the Busted Wide Open universe of Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook. This is the recap show for NXT Takeover in your house. My name is Nick Howell.
And I'm Sir Ian Dangerous, and yes, we're here to talk about the pay-per-view that just went down, Nick, over there on the Cock of P. We're here to talk about NXT Takeover in your house. I'm referring to Peacock. Don't look at me like that. And of course, it was only 5 matches long tonight, Nick. A very brisk 2 hours and 15 minutes, give or take. Not a long show. And some of these matches, I'm going to argue, maybe didn't deserve to be there. But it was also the biggest crowd ever inside the CWC. At least that's what they wanted to tell us over and over and over again. There's 300 people.
Yeah.
There's 300 people there. It didn't sound like it was a packed crowd, I'll tell you that.
We've seen some Full Sail events that had 500 people in them that just tore the roof off the place.
Yeah, it was a little muted in there. Maybe it's because everyone's still wearing masks. Not really sure. But we have a lot to discuss about this show, Nick. Lots of opinions to give about this. So let's do a little business, and then we'll get into the rest of the show.
Forewarning in advance, still feeling like complete and utter dog shit. Please forgive the coughing if it does get through. I do have the cough button on standby over here. I'll try and catch it as much as I can, but thanks for a lot of you have said well wishes. Thank you for all of that. I appreciate it. But we're fighting through it. We're going to get through it. Linktree.com/BWO is all the links to all the things. Head over there, like, share, subscribe, follow, do all of that stuff that you guys know how to do in the social medias in 2021. Big shout out to all of our patrons. Thank you guys so much. Big shout out to everybody in Discord tonight. It was a lively chat for In Your House, and we really appreciate all you guys showing up and enjoying the live chat with us and the rest of the phenomenal ones. Thank you guys so much. Thank you guys for all of your patronage. Patreon.com/BWO. Bets and subs here on Twitch, and super chats and memberships available over on YouTube. It's all the best ways to support the show. We love you guys for it. Thank you so much. Let's see. I think that's it. Let's go talk about it, because there is while there was, like you said, there were only 5 matches. On paper, there wasn't really a lot to talk about. But boy, is there a lot to talk about over on NXT Takeover in your house.
Well, kicking things off, we had a 6-man tag. It was a stipulation we do not see very often at all, ever, anywhere. Winner take all. The NXT Tag Team Champions, MSK, putting it on the line alongside the North American champion, Bronson Reed, on one side of the ring. On the other side, Legado de Fantasma. Been a thorn in all those boys' sides for a while now. And this was apparently the blow-off match, because Legado talked some schmack, and here we had this match. Fine, you want to play this game? Let's just go all out, winner take all, everything on the line. Let's just do this. And Nick, going into this, we kind of assumed, given all the talents involved, this would be a lot of creative spots, a lot of people flying all over the place, and Bronson Reed doing big, thick boy things. After seeing the match, that was exactly what we got.
Yep.
Great way to kick off the show. NXT is good at starting off the show with some very lively matches. This is not going to rank among the tops to ever do it, but it was a very, very fun match. People flying all over the place, big thick boy things, and Santos Escobar being an absolute dick of a heel, tagging in his own boys, and he doesn't want to face Bronson Reed, all that sort of stuff. fakery, trickeration, all of that didn't matter in the end because by the end, he got destroyed on the outside. They took was it Raul Mendoza? I think it was Mendoza ate the pin inside with what looked like a modified doomsday device.
Yeah.
And then followed up by a tsunami.
Tsunami.
And that was all she wrote. So our champs retain. I have to admit, Nick, this is going to be a theme on this show, but kind of saw that coming a bit too early for the champs to lose the titles unless there was some ulterior motive here. This is Bronson's first defense. I believe it's MSK's second or third at most. So they're all new champions. It would seem odd to strip them so quickly unless you had some big plans for Legado de Fantasma. That being said, Legado was soundly defeated here. Like just no ifs, ands, or buts. In fact, they got their butts kicked the first part of this match. They had a heel comeback, and then they got their butts kicked the end of this match.
Right.
That, we talked on our preview show about this. We talked about the possibility of people getting called up. Given how this ended, is there anything else for Legado de Fantasma to do in NXT given how this match played out? I mean, they'd have to either rehab Santos to make him look like any kind of threat to anybody else, or just have some sort of rebuilding for the team to make them look like threats after getting beaten pretty soundly. I mean, obviously, yes, Santos wasn't involved in the finish. He can plead. It's my tag team guys that screwed up here. But do you think it's more likely they find something else for him in NXT, or they call up the faction? Or just even Santos. They'd split the faction and take Santos.
I think what I said was that the right thing to do, if they were going to call them up, was have Legado go out on their back strong here, and it's kind of exactly what they did. All good showing from all six guys here, and then the hope would be that they would call up the faction. However, my fear is I don't know if the whole faction goes.
Right.
I think Joaquin and Raul stay in NXT, and Santos goes up by himself.
That's quite possible. I think it's a strong faction. It looks good. I don't know how it would play on the main roster unless the main roster somehow got behind it. But creative on the main roster has not shown that it's willing to get behind a 3-person Latino team. I mean, it's not like they ever had one before and split them up strangely and then let one go recently. I can't, and made them like dance around and have piñatas and be all about fun and making people happy as opposed to actually being a serious team.
Yeah, and they had to hold the whole Mysterio family, and then they ended up getting their eye poked out, and then you had Lucha House Party, and like they're half gone now.
I've never heard of them. Lucha House Party, never heard of them.
Yeah.
Or let's talk about poor Andrade and Garza.
Yeah, poor Andrade.
He's doing fine.
He's gonna be fine.
My point is that, I don't think the main roster is exactly built for a team like this.
Yeah.
It could be that they stick around in NXT and get rebuilt, and maybe that would be the better thing, but they do have to do some rebuilding after this match. What about Bronson Reed? Who do you see coming down the pike for that man? Who's next in line for Mr. Reed? We have a whole bunch of possibilities for your tag team titles. A lot of teams in contention there. That's pretty much just, duck hunt. But Bronson Reed, any thoughts on who might be his next contender?
Yeah, Swerve. Hit Row is kind of be his next obstacle, I believe.
You think it's too soon?
No, I think they've pretty well made it clear that they got next. They've been interfering. And they've been interjecting themselves in certain ways. They haven't come out and directly said we got next, but that's kind of the general feeling, in my opinion, is they got next. They did the cruiserweight thing there with Santos and Swerve, and now I think they're going to do the North American title with Swerve and Bronson Reed. Well, probably make him go through Top Dollar and other obstacles on the way to that. But yeah, it writes itself, in my opinion.
I wonder if it's too soon to sacrifice that, though. Like, you'd have to be very careful because Hit Row is very hot right now. They've got a lot of they've got a lot of swagger, and that would be undercut significantly if all of a sudden Top Dollar's laying down to Bronson Reed. Even though he's a champion, it's still, as you're out the gate, you kind of want that faction to look hot.
Yep.
So I wonder if they're going to go for that.
No, I'm not saying. I'm saying non-title matches. I think he'll have to go through all of that stuff. Yeah, but
I understand. Yeah. I'm more saying that it would be surprising to me if they did that, because I worry that it's going to be too easy to not have Hit Row look dominant, which I think they should for at least their first feud or two.
Yep.
If you're going to take them seriously.
I agree.
And speaking of taking things seriously, Xia Li has been a lot more serious ever since she joined up with Chun Sha. And she's still mad about losing to Mercedes Martinez in the Mei Ying Classic a couple of years ago, a while back.
Yeah.
And that's what this whole feud was built around. Mercedes Martinez was going to go out there and just be the badass chick that she is. And that was the match we got. Mercedes Martinez is a badass. Xia Li is a buzzsaw. What's going to happen? And what we ended up finding out was that Mercedes Martinez can take a lot of punishment, but ultimately Xia Li has a nasty spinning kick in her back pocket that just KO'd Mercedes for about 30 seconds, more than long enough to get the pin for Xia Li. Came out of nowhere, though, Nick. What did you think about the finish of this match? It was Mercedes kind of holding her own and kind of keeping Xia at bay and she injured Zaya's calf at one point, or shin, so Zaya's kicks weren't as effective. It was Mercedes looking very strong and Xia kind of like pulling out a last-ditch, hope kick and getting the win. Did you like the way that they structured this match?
Well, it felt like there was a means to an end. Like it felt like the match was just there to be a precursor to what we ultimately got after the match. But I'll save that for just a second. The match, I think, was fine. It could have been a little bit more hard hitting. It could have gone a little bit longer. And I think, as you were saying at the top of the show, there were only 5 matches, and it was a very brisk 2:15 for the show tonight. I feel like if you could have given a couple of 3 of these matches 10 minutes more, something else a little bit more to do, then there would have been some more weight to it. It would have been able to get to that next gear. This one never really got out of second gear for me, and it felt like it was just a means to an end to get to what ultimately happened at the end of the match, which was one of the first encounters that we've seen where Chun Sha actually stands up.
Mei Ying,
stands up out of the chair and comes down, and Mercedes, and I love Mercedes here, like, all right, bitch, you want to go? Come on, bring it.
Yeah.
And I dig that. And they kind of slowly marched towards each other. And it was kind of anticlimactic, if I'm being honest.
You didn't like it?
She grabbed her, got her in the choke, and then threw her off the ramp.
Yeah, Mei Ying reaches up, gets her in the neck choke. She breaks free, but then goes for the chair, gets caught in the neck choke again, and just tossed like a sack of garbage off of the ramp.
Where's this go, though? Like,
feel like, here's the thing, though. So, a couple of problems here. One, I agree, it felt a little anticlimactic because I get what they were trying to execute was the right idea. The way that it executed just didn't look as good as I think they wanted it to. Yeah. And that's okay, fine. I think that it worked for the people that it worked for. I don't think that it didn't work for everybody. I get what they were going for. And I think that in that sense it was fine. It just wasn't as good as it could have been. But to your point, Nick, the whole thing being a means to an end is what you do on a weekly NXT show, not a takeover where you have 5 matches.
Bingo.
And there was a lot of criticism of this takeover card before the show went on because it was a little bit thin. And it wasn't like you didn't have people to put on the show. You've got Kushida doing another Cruiserweight Open Challenge next week. You could have built something for Kushida. They built stuff in less time. The Mercedes Martinez and Xia Li thing came about in 2 weeks. Could have built something for Kushida. You had grizzled young vets and Timothy Thatcher and Tommaso Ciampa cutting promos on this show about their Tornado tag match next week. That match could have been on the show, and you could have had it go 30 minutes, 40 minutes, and it would have been goddamn amazing, except you already have some form of tag match on the show, so they probably didn't want to double up and overshadow that.
Yeah.
So I get it. This was a bit of a something slightly different on the show. The problem was it just didn't feel like a takeover match. It didn't feel like a takeover post-match angle. It just felt like it was there. And it wasn't bad, but it was just there.
Yeah. Yeah.
The only thing I can say that was good, Mercedes Martinez looked like an absolute badass. Xia Li, however, did not. She and Boa both got beaten up with chairs by Mercedes Martinez after the match. So that kind of weakened them somewhat. And I got to say, when you have 2 people that are supposed to look like absolute beasts, having Xia Li look like that didn't help her credibility.
When she's coming down and doing martial arts with weapons on the ramp, you think that gives me an impression, oh, wow, okay, this is a world ender. This is someone that's
going to murder somebody.
You're going to actually murder somebody right now.
Yeah.
And when that doesn't happen,
well, once you put her against someone like Mercedes Martinez, you anticipate that Martinez's perceived legitimacy, because she does come across as one of the most legitimate feeling badasses in the women's roster.
Right.
You have Xia Li go over her, which you do. She wins, but it felt more like Xia Li got lucky as opposed to she actually beat this badass. So it didn't do what I think the purpose was supposed to be, which was make Xia Li look like more of a badass. It made her look like she was fierce but lucky, and that's about it. It made Martinez look like a badass who just ran into a brick wall of something weird and supernatural we don't quite understand yet, which these days in WWE is hit or miss.
And where does this go now? Is this supposed? I would have thought Xia Li should be the one that was doing this to Mercedes, but now it's it's being Mei Ying. Mei Ying doing this.
Good morning, sunshine. Ladies and gentlemen, Nick is struggling, so please
forgive my convalescing over here. So you put this match together, wanting Xia Li to look like the badass. Ultimately, Mei Ying ends up looking like the badass, but where's Xia Li? She's getting carried off by Boa? Selling.
She's off selling, yeah.
So why wouldn't you have Xia Li do this with powers channeled via Shansha, right?
Or motivation. The whole thing was that she doesn't feel pain anymore, doesn't feel fear anymore, et cetera, et
telling
cetera.
the story, and it makes it kind of just dull. And I really want to like this. I've been on board with this since they started it. I really want to like this, and they're making it really hard to care.
It's getting hit or miss, and there's a lot of the trappings of it that work, but it's not quite all hitting the notes I think they want it to.
Yeah.
That is unfortunate.
Let's see. Catching up a little bit. Kyle threw in 100 bits, said, I get the feeling Bronson is getting called up after Great American Bash. The focus on Santos looking at the North American title and getting crushed makes me think this isn't done. Of all these talents, Bronson is probably the best equipped to move and succeed with fans.
Yeah, that was an interesting moment. He's referring to a point in the match where Santos goes outside, grabs North American title and just stares at it and screams, and then turns around and Bronson runs him through the barricade, like crushes him into the barricade. Worse than, like, he got squished last time. This time he got squished through the entire wall, and then he was just dead for the rest of the match. That was an interesting moment, and I wonder if that's going to be a callback to something, or if that was him putting over the North American Championship. That was, it's something that may be calling back to something at some point.
Yeah,
we'll see. We'll see.
He also threw in another 100 bits, said this was an old school takeover match regarding Xia and Mercedes Martinez, where the newer talent got in to highlight them, even though bigger names could have been here. They needed to make Xia a bit stronger, even with Mei Ying, hi Karen, standing up and getting physical, which I was completely marking out for that sequence, even if fans no-sold it. I was marking out too, Kyle.
Yeah.
And it kind of...
A lot of people in Discord were like, oh, shit, she's standing up. But you're right. That crowd that was there was like, who that? Jesus Christ, who tranked the crowd tonight?
Right.
Like, you're going to let people back in. You make sure you let people back in that are hot.
Is it possible that they did the thing where they did in New Japan where they said you can't cheer, you can clap, and you can stomp your feet or whatever, but you can't cheer?
So where was the foot stomping then?
I don't know.
There was cheering, and there was cheering sometimes.
I'm wondering if it's an acoustics thing. We're so spoiled over the years at Full Sail because it's so compact in there.
Right. Well, we were getting the whistles, though, so maybe there was something about, like, don't cheer too loud, germs. I don't know.
Our resident phenomenal one, Anna, is always at NXT, so I don't know. It'll be interesting if she gets to go to the next couple of events in the CWC where if they let this many fans back in during the weekly shows. What happens? We got Great American Bash coming up. That was announced tonight as well. So they're going to have some big shows on the weeklies. I think, is it
throwback
Tuesday?
theme shows?
Oh, yeah, throwback theme shows.
In your house, and they got Todd Pettengill making all the old guy jokes. And, hey, remember how it was in the 90s, kids? He looks like he fell face first into a vat of pubes with that weird chin thing he's got going on.
Okay, if we're going to talk about this, I have to bring up Stacy Pro in the chat said Sorry, guys. We had to have our opening artist lip sync her song. No time for extra matches tonight.
Hey, don't be
Ooh.
taking shots at budget Beyonce.
Budget Beyonce. But we had Todd Pettengill show up in the pre-show, and we had some super hybrid of if Triple H and who else was it that I was saying? So, what in the hell was with Sam Roberts? Like I don't know.
He shaved his head. Shaved his head and grew out the beard and yeah. It's like every fashion choice or every like decision that guy makes just doesn't work.
No.
I don't know what it is.
No. That's all I wanted to say about it.
They got to queer eye that guy. Like get the Fab Five to give him help.
Call
Some sort of
JB.
help.
How he has a career.
I don't even know. JB will be like Fab Five, the man.
Yeah.
She's gonna be like, I can't help him. He's beyond help.
Oh man.
But that being said, we also had, speaking of throwbacks, we had a throwback title match. The $1 Million Championship has not been seen ever since Steve Austin was the ringmaster, but yet it showed up tonight because the $1 Million Man put it on the line in a ladder match between LA Knight and Cameron Grimes. And both LA Knight and Cameron Grimes have been vying for the affections of Mr. DiBiase over the last few weeks. It all came to a head tonight, Nick, when they would have to climb the metaphorical and literal ladder of success to get down the title and become the new protege of the $1 Million Man. Now, this is an interesting match for a couple of reasons. One, it's the first match of the night and the only match of the night where you and I disagreed on who was going to win. And it was also a match where a lot of things could have happened here. And it was also a match that could have stolen the show or been the biggest dud, I feel, of the show. And they decided to do this match in a way, like as a big fan of ladder matches, I was kind of rubbing my hands like, please don't let me down, guys. And I don't think that they did like maybe, I think 3 spots that I haven't seen before. There was a diamond cutter onto a sideways ladder, which looked absolutely goddamn brutally painful.
Nice.
And even LA Knight, who gave the cutter, sold like his left arm had been exploded at the elbow. Right arm, excuse me. There's another spot where Grimes was stuck up on a ladder, and as it was being outside the ring, and as it was being tipped over, he leaped onto the like one of the structures inside the performance center, inside the CWC. One of the what would you call that?
Like rigging.
Like the rigging.
I think the engineering term would
Scaffolding.
be a stanchion.
Yeah, something like that. He jumped on one of those way up in the air, and then he did a crossbody onto LA Knight from way up there. That was very cool. And at a certain point, the black ladders all kind of either got broken or went away, and we were left with that gold ladder. We thought it was solid gold, and then Cameron Grimes carried it down the ramp like it was a regular ladder, and so they said, oh, it must be gold-plated. Which, of course, yes, gold-plated. Gold-plated.
Plated.
It was a can of gold plating they bought at Home Depot that makes that gold, I believe. That ends up getting set up in the ring. Cameron Grimes thinks LA Knight is finally down and out outside after a nice, very, very well-paced match. I thought they could have gone faster, but they would have screwed up spots. This, I thought, felt like it was nice, evenly paced. They sold really well. So Cameron Grimes going up the ladder. No, there was never any of those spots where you were like, get up the ladder already. I think for the most part, they had good pace getting up. Grimes is going up at a pretty good clip at the end, but he ends up getting tossed off the ladder onto a ladder that is laid horizontally from the ring rope to another ladder out on the entrance ramp. He goes flying over the ropes onto this thing. So nice. That's a great finishing bump. And LA Knight climbs the ladder and grabs the briefcase and gets sparklers and a nice big moment to be crowned the new $1 Million Champion. So, Nick, you had picked Mr. Grimes. I'd picked Mr. Knight. We agreed you said it was a certainty. I said it was a coin flip. Why were you so certain that Cameron Grimes was going to win, and what did you think when he didn't?
I just feel like he's been doing this for about twice as long as LA Knight's actually been there. And I feel hindsight being 2020, it does make sense. Because Cameron Grimes is more of a tantrum and a better chaser and fighting upwards. Like, it makes sense. LA Knight is now in a better position to be the kind of cocky dick that he is because he's got the title and he's got DiBiase. It actually works.
It works beautifully.
Yeah, and you can have Grimes running around, throwing a tantrum and doing his normal shtick, and that works beautifully as well. I'm not sure if the inverse would have worked.
And he said, that's one thing you just said. He's a tantrum. He's a bit of a goofball.
Yeah.
And at this point, people were saying, why have a match where it's heel against heel? Well, Cameron Grimes was getting face reactions. He's a funny heel. He's kind of a doofus, but you kind of like him. We've grown to like him, and they're positioning him as being a bit of an underdog, in as much as he's a bit of a doofus.
Yeah.
He doesn't know the trappings of fame and money and power. He's a nouveau riche, right? Whereas LA Knight is like a new DiBiase. The way they presented him in his mansion with all his women and his champagne and his Mercedes, like he acted like a modern DiBiase. I don't care about the little people, right? Cameron Grimes tipping everybody, which I'll tell you right now goes a long way. When you are one of the little people, a nice fat tip from a dude who doesn't know how much money he has or what it is, it goes a long way towards making you like the person.
Right.
So I agree. This is one of the reasons I was arguing for LA Knight, even though I said it was a coin flip, and I said, well, you take Grimes, I'll take LA Knight. I talked myself into believing that because it truly did feel like that would be a better choice in terms of the presentation of the belt, in terms of the actual legacy of the $1 Million Man. And it's a big boost for LA Knight, who didn't have a whole lot going on. Cameron Grimes was already over, but LA Knight needed a little bit more to his gimmick to make him something.
Yeah.
And this is it. I think this is it. So I think it actually works out well for both guys. Now we have sympathy for Cameron Grimes, and now LA Knight actually has one more added little piece of douchebaggery that he can throw out there. And it's a nice big extra building block for him to go back into full audiences with.
How much better was Ric Flair when he had the 10 pounds of gold? Right?
Yeah, get something to crow about.
Yeah.
As opposed to just like, I'm LA Knight, I'm great. Okay. Now you have to explain it every time.
Forgive me, I'm not comparing the $1 million gimmick belt to the 10 pounds of gold of NWA.
You kind of just did.
But my point is that it gives him stance, I guess.
There's some legitimacy to him.
Yeah.
Now. Right.
Yeah.
And his cocky attitude now has some backing.
Yeah.
Whereas Cameron Grimes being cocky is funny. Like he won all his money playing stocks with AMC and GameStop, right? Dogecoin. That's funny. So whereas LA Knight, I love the fact that he said, I'm not a millionaire yet, but I live like I am. And with your help, I will be. So I want to see that story. Show me that story. Show me LA Knight becoming a millionaire because of Ted DiBiase's help and being the douchebag that now he's got the belt that says he is.
Yeah.
So totally, thought this ended up working out well, and a very solid match too.
Yeah, it was.
I don't think it's all time.
You're never gonna get a bad reaction out of a ladder match from you and I believe.
Best thing either of these guys have done in NXT.
Yeah. Costanza threw in 100 bits, said, seeing the $1 million belt brought me back to my childhood. I remember the vignettes before it debuted, and damn, the belt still looks so good. It does. Thank you very much, Costanza.
It's still unique, that's for sure.
Kyle threw in 100 bits, said, I just want to say right before this match was amazing for one reason. The last NXT before everything got shut down because of the pandemic gets chance of no one likes you and getting eaten alive by the crowd. First night back with fans, and he's the most over guy in NXT. Talk about an amazing turnaround. I'm looking forward to this feud continuing, and I love this old school physical ladder match for a change with not many stunts. It was rather fresh from the WWE ladder formula.
It was very old school. There was a lot of like using ladders as weapons and not a lot of big crazy stunts. It felt like two guys actually fighting with ladders and fighting for possession of ladders and maneuvering themselves so they can possibly have some time to climb the ladder. I thought it was a very well done match. It didn't rewrite anything, and it's not going to be an all-time classic. It was just a very solid, very, very entertaining match in the moment.
Yeah, totally.
Costanza
threw in 100 bits, said, Nick, that's metal. In your lungs.
In your lungs. Yeah, Nick.
No, it's not. It's actually called vegetable glycerin, which is basically nothing more than sugar water. So
that's what they tell you. That's what they want you to think, Nick.
Sure.
They're magnetizing your lungs.
Yeah. Right.
Get magnetized.
And I have a 5G chip in me now because I've been vaccinated. So
you do.
Yeah, keep telling yourselves that. Yep.
Hey man,
The one-on-one with Bill Gates was really nice, by the way. So if you haven't been vaccinated yet, I learned so much.
Yeah.
And it all happens telepathically.
You just hold your cell phone up to your arm and get better signal?
No, it's all just, I have a HUD now inside of my retina. So I can see everything happening right there. And he just appeared almost like you were doing a FaceTime call, but without any device.
Turn off your phone by just poking yourself in the eye.
Seriously. Yep. You double click your temple.
You double click your temple.
Right. And you can scroll. It's got gestures on your temple.
Gestures on your temple.
Right. So why I don't know what you guys are waiting for. Like, hurry up and go get vaccinated. There's some cool shit, man. Not only will it help you prevent getting a virus, but yeah.
Is it gonna have like those updates like every 30 minutes? It's gonna be like reminding me of an update. I gotta keep clicking it off.
Yeah, you gotta click. Just try again later. Try again later.
Try again later. Try again later.
Right.
Remind me tomorrow.
Right.
Remind me tomorrow. It's so annoying.
You have to hit yourself in the crotch every time you want to cancel the updates or postpone the updates.
That's what I'm already doing to cancel the updates. That's what it feels like.
Right.
Oh, my God. Moving on to the next match. Ember Moon versus Raquel Gonzalez for the NXT Women's Championship. This has been a nice, angry little feud that's been building ever since we had some issues over the NXT Tag Team Championships, the Women's Tag Team Championships. Another match they could have had on the show. Womp womp. But the Tag Team Championships are currently not involved with either of these teams. Either Shotzi and Ember or Raquel and Dakota Kai. Shotzi, of course, not ringside because she was injured, a fact which she reiterated on Twitter, but we suspected might be kayfabe. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. It was. She came out at the end of the match to chase off Dakota Kai, but by that point, Dakota Kai had actually earned her money and had distracted Ember enough, and actually at one point, Ember hit Raquel with a big ol' eclipse and had her dead to rights, and Dakota threw Raquel's foot up on the ropes to prevent the pin. And that was pretty much the last moment that Ember really had her dead to rights. And from then on, Raquel just mounted a comeback and ultimately gave her the Chingona power bomb, or choke slam. What is she calling it? Chingona choke slam, Chingona power bomb, which, Chingona, naughty. And that was it. Ember Moon loses her shot at the Women's Championship. But it was a very solid match overall. Lots of power moves. Both women looking very strong. Ember looking strong against someone who up until now has been a very dominant competitor, dominant champ, and Raquel showing she can do a 20-minute match. So what did you think, Nick? Do you feel like Ember got in too much offense in this match? Was it properly balanced? Did it tell the right story? Did Raquel come back too quickly? What did you think about this match?
It felt like it was a little one-sided. It felt like it was a match of Ember Moon throwing everything she possibly could at the giant Raquel Gonzalez. So Ember Moon versus Dakota Kai subverting her outside the ring.
Right.
That's what the match felt like. Raquel didn't really get that much in until right at the end. Like you said, after that final eclipse where she put her leg up on the rope. I don't know. They were doing all these video packages. We watched it about 3 times tonight between the pre-show and the main show of Ember Moon saying it's my time. I was champion after Asuka, and I'm gonna be better than Asuka, better than Charlotte, better than all these ladies that have come before her. Blah 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 blah. Exactly. And I was just like, what are they trying to tell us here? And then we have the match, and it's all Ember, all match, just bang 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 bang, just hammering on Raquel. And I'm like, are they actually gonna flip this after telling us all of that and then showing? Nope. And it turned out to be a battle between who can prevent Raquel from getting pinned. It's Ember versus Dakota is what this match felt like.
Which is, I think, more of the issue that you and I have as well with the current presentation and package of Raquel Gonzalez.
Yeah.
She doesn't need Dakota Kai.
No.
She doesn't need her. It makes her look weaker if an Ember Moon can come along and dominate her in this way, and the only way she can not get pinned is because Dakota saves her ass.
Yeah.
That's not the Raquel that we've been sold up until now. It's not the one that they sell us on commentary.
Imagine if Scarlett was running around doing that for Karrion Kross the whole time. We'd be shitting all over it.
Well, we'd be shitting all over him too. And we'll talk about him in a second. The fact that, what's going on with his presentation, which is the opposite of Raquel Gonzalez.
Right.
And I don't know if they're trying to just differentiate their champs and not have just 2 monster champs. But unfortunately, it really undercuts Raquel Gonzalez if you have someone like Dakota Kai running around and running interference. and she genuinely needs it. Like, it's one thing to have Kai out there and just be an obnoxious distraction, being obnoxious, but she doesn't have much personality with it. It's just she's there to literally run interference. It's not like she's talking smack like a Jimmy Hart or Xavier Woods when he was doing with like kind of the mouthpiece of a heel New Day.
Yeah, he's got his trombone. He's just distracting people.
Right.
Yeah.
She's out there just, making sure she's in the right place to distract and pull someone's leg or put a leg up on the rope or whatever. And unfortunately, that really does hurt Raquel's presentation. And in this match, it's another match where I felt like it was built like Ember was very strong and Raquel did overpower her at the end, but if she would not have, if not for Dakota Kai. So that didn't make Raquel look like she had outlasted Ember Moon. It made it look like Ember Moon had Raquel dead to rights. And she lost, ultimately because she could not hold out against someone like Raquel. Raquel just was given too many chances.
Yeah.
But that does undercut Raquel's perception and her presentation. So I thought that was kind of the wrong way to build this match. It should have been Ember surviving and showing how strong she was by surviving more, and less about her dominating Raquel and being someone who took it to Raquel. As much as, honestly, at the end of the day, Raquel can say, I beat Ember Moon, former NXT champion. And, that'll be in the books, and she can say that, and we'll, eventually it will fade the nuances of this match.
Yeah.
In the immediate short term, it does undercut her character.
Totally. I
didn't
like this at all.
Going forward.
I didn't like this at all. Raquel had a big showing at War Games. She had a big showing to get the title off. Finally, somebody beat Io Shirai, and it was Raquel Gonzalez, right? After that massive reign that Io Shirai had. She should not be out there taking an ass whooping from Ember Moon like this. Period. Hard stop. She should have come out and absolutely... If you want to build Ember Moon with that video package like that, fantastic. Have Raquel come out and just bang, just squash her.
I don't think she should have squashed
dominant.
her. I don't agree with the squash, but I like the idea of Raquel dominating Ember fighting upwards, and ultimately getting ultimately let's say getting a surprise. She's got that one killer move, right? She got the Eclipse. Like, she's great, she's very strong, but she doesn't have enough for Raquel. But she's got that one move we know can knock Raquel out. She hits it. That's when Shotzi strikes. And you have Raquel possibly lose the match there, but she doesn't because Dakota saves her from Ember's, one power move, one death kill move. That way Raquel looks like a dominant champ. Ember looks strong because she does have the ability to take out someone like a Raquel. But ultimately, Raquel still looks dominant overall.
Yeah.
And it was like Ember almost got lucky, and Dakota was there to prevent those possible luck moments for Raquel. So that would have been a better way the match for it to be built.
Much like we were talking about with the Mercedes Martinez and Xia Li match being a means to an end, I also look at this match and go, did they book this as a means to an end for the returning Shotzi Blackheart?
Maybe. I mean, she did come back, and it makes me wonder if they're going to reform the tag teams and then have them go back against the Way, which I suspect they will, because they've only got 3 women's tag teams, unless Xia Li and Mei Ying start teaming up. But
my point was, before I
almost died. Yeah.
Nonsense. I'm in my prime. If this match felt like it was a means to an end as well for the returning Shotzi Blackheart. Surprise, right? So we needed to have Dakota out there interfering with the match. We needed to look like Ember was going to have a strong match, so that the only thing preventing Ember from going over Raquel was the pesky Dakota Kai outside the ring. So Shotzi coming back. I feel like a lot of the focus on this match was taken away by Dakota Kai and the return of Shotzi Blackheart.
Which is always the problem with having someone outside.
I wanted this to be a championship match between 2 powerhouse wrestlers, and it just wasn't. It wasn't about the match. It was about the exterior auxiliaries.
Which I would actually argue that for the most part it was about the match, but Dakota did come in a lot as a distraction. But the problem with what you're just saying is that when Shotzi does come in and chase Dakota away, the one thing that should be keeping Ember from winning the match is gone, and then Raquel mounts a comeback and wins. So that throws that feeling, that theory out the window. You know what I mean? If you're sitting there expecting that story to be told, or if that's the story of the match, then it doesn't. The way that they structure the match doesn't even work for that scenario, because they had Raquel, like Ember never got another chance. right? So we could never see if that was the case or not.
I mean, cue Shotzi next. Is that what we're doing? Ember got her shot. Now Shotzi's back, and she's going to get her shot. I mean, where are the tag
I would love
teams?
To see,
right?
I would love to see Shotzi versus Raquel.
Yeah,
give me that all day long.
If we're gonna, it's fine if they're a team. Why are we not sending them back after the NXT Women's Tag Team Championships? That's my question. If we're not going to, then let's split them up. We don't need to have a tag team that isn't a tag team and isn't contending for the tag team championships.
I don't know. I mean, it's something that they do in AEW where they have, the tag teams. You can be a singles wrestler or a tag team depending on the week, depending on the match. I'm not mad at that. But the thing is, the women's tag team division is so thin. If you have one of those teams working in singles, competition as well, then you really undercut these brand new spanking belts that you just got.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to build up the division before you can have some of your women's tag teams going and doing singles as well. So it's a problem.
Yeah.
Or just have more teams where women are singles wrestlers as well. And that way there are just more teams in the division all around.
Yeah.
But speaking of lots of people, 5 men competing in the ring for Karrion Kross's NXT Championship. One of them, of course, Karrion Kross. The other ones are Johnny Gargano.
The other ones are everyone.
Everyone. Johnny Gargano and Kyle O'Reilly get into a scrap in the parking lot. Regal has to try to break them up before the whole show starts. Adam Cole and Pete Dunne start fighting. Adam Cole. Pete Dunne tries to go for Karrion Kross, I believe. Adam Cole, I think, was mixed up as well. Regal's trying to separate them backstage as well. Regal's just had his hands full. He hasn't been able to keep control for the last few weeks. A plot point, surprisingly, that would come back at the end of the show. But we'll get there because that's a big bone to chew on. But this match was a fatal 5-way between all 5 of these men. And Nick, coming into this, we said it kind of feels like it's just Karrion Kross versus Adam Cole because a lot of focus was put on Adam Cole, really making a mockery of Karrion Kross and kind of holding himself above the other 3 guys that were contending here. But once this match started, it was basically Karrion Kross versus 4 men. And given the fact that Kross is a big hoss of a dude, and all 4 of these guys, I think, would solidly qualify as the pejorative vanilla midget, it basically looked like a man amongst boys. It looked like a T-Rex being attacked by a bunch of raptors. And unfortunately, every time Karrion Kross was in there trying to defend himself, it looked like that.
Yeah.
And it became a matter of all the other guys having to team up to toss Karrion out of the ring and take him out of the picture for a little bit before bringing him back. It reminds me of, what was the triple threat? It was Seth Rollins, and I think it was Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, and Brock Lesnar. And they just kept having to take Brock out of it because he was just mauling them whenever he was in the ring. That's how this felt. The upside was when there was just the other 4 guys not Karrion Kross, this match was bonkers. It was, it was what you'd expect from these guys. It was incredibly fast-paced, crazy moves, throwing themselves all over the place, insane DDTs and code reds and destroyers and BJJ. Careful there, Wade. And lots of that kind of fast-paced action we've come to expect from NXT. And then Karrion Kross would come back in. If he was one-on-one with somebody, for the first half of the match at least, he would annihilate them.
Yeah.
Ultimately, he did get double powerbombed by Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly later on in the match. They were forced to work together, which was a nice little moment. Powerbombed him onto the announce table, not through. But then about 5 minutes later, he pops up fresh as a daisy when Pete Dunne goes outside the ring to send, I believe it was Adam Cole out. And Karrion Kross pops up like he'd been taking a nice little power nap. Big grin on his face, and Pete Dunne hops back in the ring and goes, "Okay, come on in." And then began a sequence where all 4 of these guys got a shot at Karrion Kross, and all of them almost took him out one-on-one. Pete Dunne almost made him pass out, even though he did kick out of the bitter end. He almost made him pass out. Gargano, O'Reilly, they all had a shot at Karrion Kross. But ultimately, O'Reilly had Adam Cole in a submission move. Karrion Kross sits up like Kane behind him, puts him in the cross jacket, and it's all over. Kyle O'Reilly passes out in the cross jacket. Adam Cole's, rolling away, trying to get away, trying to not tap. And that's it. That's Karrion Kross retains, which
Okay.
Yeah, of course he retains.
Of course he retains.
Nick, did you get the same impression from this match where it felt like, as I said, a man among boys? Did Karrion Kross look too dominant or like too big of a figure next to everybody else here? Like, did this demean the rest of the top of the card of NXT by being thrown in here and looking like no one, I mean, except for the end when Kross had been beaten down by 4 men, that was the only chance all these guys had to take him out. Did it make Karrion look too strong? Did it make the other guys look too weak? What was your perception of the match?
It was not without action.
Oh no, a lot of action.
It was a fantastic spectacle to see. My fear now is, okay, now what?
Yes.
Because unless you've got something cool planned, like a Keith Lee making a surprise return to come back and get his titles back, or title, I guess. Unless you've got something that's big hoss that can stand up against the T-Rex that is Karrion Kross. What now? So you've also, in the process of this, like you said, chumped the rest of the top of the card. Because who's left? The only one left is Balor. That wasn't a part of this, but he's been beat handily.
Twice.
Thank you. So I'm sitting here going, okay.
Okay, now what? You've had Karrion Kross destroy the entire top of your card. You've just shown he can beat all 4 of the other guys. They can't even get a win on each other during this match. You know, they tried to make those hope spots where, like, will Adam Cole pin Pete Dunne? No, he's not going to pin. No. At no point did I think that was going to happen, just because it seemed too unrealistic with the way this match was weighted in terms of presentation. So, and that's kind of the unfortunate thing here, is I feel like they've made Karrion Kross almost like the Brock Lesnar of NXT, just with a lot more nuance. He's willing to do more in matches.
Sure.
These days. But it still feels like he's the insurmountable beast. Who the hell is going to take that title off of him? None of these 4 guys.
We said that about Shayna for the longest time. You know?
Right. And that's something they do like, having their strong champs in NXT, and they just have them hold on to it until they build someone up to be strong enough to take it from them. You know,
I just don't know who else you got.
I know. And of these guys, O'Reilly and Dunn, I'd love to see them have a run with the title, but right now, after this match, it doesn't seem realistic.
No.
It wouldn't be realistic for either one of these guys to beat Kross. You know, even the one spot where it looked like Dunn might win, it definitely was. It would have been shocking. You know, it's kind of like, I mean, we've already seen Finn Balor. All of these guys, it just would feel like a Finn Balor retread. A littler guy trying to be vicious and smart against an absolute unstoppable powerhouse. So I agree. I feel like they've decimated the whole top of the card here with this match.
Yep.
And it was a fun match. It was a good match. At no point did I think the outcome was anything other than what it was going to be. But ultimately, after this match, I'm left thinking, well, now what do you do?
Yep.
Which brings us to the end of the show.
Now, I'm not going to lie. We've been waiting to finish my thought from a little bit ago. No, there's no news on Keith Lee yet, other than his kind of cryptic tweets that he's soon trademark, right? He's going to let us know what's going on. There was part of me that wanted to go off the air with the next challenger kind of making themselves known at the end of the show. And I was sitting there watching going,
what's it going to be? What's the go home going to be? Because we weren't seeing the symbol pop up, right? We weren't seeing the logo.
It was just vamp by the commentary. Just keep going as he's walking up the
another
ramp.
Replay.
And I watched the replay 3 times and just all this stuff, right? And I'm
Kross
sitting there going,
posing. Is someone coming out?
Somebody's going to make themselves known as the next challenger for the... Nope.
Oh my God, it's Virgil. Virgil's coming out. He's going to challenge Karrion Kross, and he's going to go after the $1 million belt. You guys are
Kenny
insane.
Omega. He's come to NXT.
It's the other forbidden door.
Right.
Oh my goodness. Nope, it was none of that. It was a very quiet, very sort of somber end of the show. We see William Regal walking out the back, and Mackenzie chases after him and chases him out of the parking lot and says, Mr. Regal, it's been a really crazy show and a crazy couple of weeks. You know, what's next? What's coming up now? What's going on?
And Regal's got tears in his eyes.
He turns around. There's tears streaming down his cheeks. And he says, Mercedes, I've been doing this for 7 years. And I've never seen...
Mackenzie.
Mackenzie, excuse me. Sorry, I'm thinking of LA Knight's car. It's a really nice car. Mackenzie, I've been doing this for 7 years, and I've never seen chaos like this. I think it's time for a change. And tears in his eyes, he turns and walks away. I'm going to put you on the spot. I've got my hunch. But what do you think this means?
New general manager.
Okay. Who?
No idea.
No idea.
No idea. Who could possibly fill the shoes of Regal? He has been the one stalwart cornerstone of that entire brand.
Okay, so let me pitch.
He's the only one that has been there the entire time.
Let me pitch something at you here. And this is based on the fact that we know that someone has been in talks with WWE recently. Certainly rumors of him having talks from some very good sources. Who was it who first gave Regal the biggest conniptions when it came to keeping order in NXT?
Samoa Joe.
I want you to turn and read Kyle's comment. Right over here. 100
it says, who can bring order to NXT if not Regal? Perhaps a certain California Samoan not related to The Rock.
Bum, 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 bum. I'm just saying, if Joe comes back and they're not willing to let him wrestle, Joe as the GM stepping into Regal's shoes, who else could wield that level of authority, who could get in people's faces and make them shut the hell up and listen to him? Who else could say War Games and possibly pull it off in the same realm as Regal? Who else could possibly also at some point have a match, perhaps say with a Karrion Kross, and make it look legitimate? Maybe it's not even about Regal stepping down. Maybe he needs an enforcer. There's lots of possibilities if it is Samoa Joe. And that is right now the number one scuttlebutt as to what this is, what this could possibly be.
It would be interesting. If this is Regal, if it's Regal's time, it's Regal's time. And we will be nothing but thankful for his service and all of that. But man, I am going to be so disappointed. All of the turmoil and turnover that we've had with Morrow and back and forth with all the different commentary configurations, and it's felt unsettled. We've gotten to this point now with Vic and Wade and Beth, and it feels settled. And now all of a sudden, you're going to flip the desk upside down.
Are you doing the Garth "we fear change" thing right now? You fearing change right now, Nick? You fearing change?
There's a lot of change happening across WWE right now,
sure.
And I'm forgive me for being a little jumpy.
Well, I don't think Regal's going to be gone.
We've got
maybe
legendary beards being shaven in the all-time beard apocalypse.
This is the beard apocalypse
Braun
right now.
Strowman shaved his over the weekend too. Spoiler alert, in case you guys didn't know.
Your prophecy came true, Nick.
For the record, no, I am not shaving my beard.
No, you're standing up against the beard apocalypse.
Nope, it's not happening.
I'm proud of you.
Here's the thing. I as much as I like Regal, I do think, I don't want to say the word stale, but it's predictable.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a good shakeup at the top could make things very interesting.
Sure.
Bring in some new blood. We haven't had, like he said himself, it's been a long 7 years.
Yeah. And even if it's something as simple as he steps down and Shawn Michaels becomes the GM or something like that, something a little bit more, not quite as exciting as Samoa Joe coming back and being either a competitor or a GM in NXT. I think that this is an opportunity for them to change something that's been, if shaking things up, I think, especially in persistent shows like NXT, like WWE, where it's year round, it's constantly going. You've got to shake things up.
Yep.
You have to. Otherwise, it does and it can be things that you don't expect, that don't feel like the things that need to be shaken up. But it's amazing how the butterfly effect can affect other aspects of the show. as you said, even with the commentary team, like the show feels different. Whether it's good or not is a matter of debate. But this is something where whatever they're doing with Regal, whether he's going to go away forever, whether he's going to stick around and get an enforcer, whether he's going to change roles and he's still going to be around but take a step back, or whatever it is, it's going to feel like something new. And I think right now, NXT is a little bit, I don't want to say treading water, but it doesn't feel as electrified as it did 2, maybe 3 years ago.
Not since Gargano Ciampa. It hasn't been the same.
Even maybe a little after that. It's been a while. I would say Cole on top definitely.
Undisputed Era, sure. I'll give you that.
Yeah,
but the debut of them and the run that they had for a couple of years.
It's been on a bit of a downward slide in terms of electricity.
Yeah.
To me, and I think even the takeovers. Let's talk about this takeover as a whole, because I think even this takeover was fine. It wasn't a bad show.
It should have been a lot better than it was.
It should, and it could have been a lot better than it was with the talent that you had performing.
I'm going to also throw a little bone and a jab at the crowd. We were looking at you guys to come in hot.
Yeah.
And we were looking at, for the first time in over a year, we've got 300 people at an NXT event, a live event.
And they're promoting the hell out of the fact that they're there. It's the most people ever in the CWC.
Right.
Oh my
and
God.
you just fell flat. And I wanted the Full Sail experience back. I wanted the chants. I wanted the cadences. I wanted all of the reactions. And I just didn't get it. And they were still piping in chants and music and all of that kind of stuff. And I was left wanting more.
Because our very own Anna NXT was not there, so
that's
Anna,
why. That's totally why. She would have amped everybody up.
Yep. They missed her.
Yep.
But yeah, ultimately, I have to say I wasn't let down by this show. Again, it wasn't a bad show, but it wasn't a mind-blowing show. And I think the problem was that for a while there was so many takeovers that just one after the other were mind-blowing.
Yeah.
That we've gotten to a certain level of expectation for them. And so when they're not mind-blowing, we kind of go, well, that sucked. And I don't want to say that sucked, because it didn't.
It didn't.
It had a lot of really good stuff in it.
You'll never hear me say the show tonight sucked.
Right. It just wasn't mind-blowing. And so on the scale that we've started to put NXT on, maybe it's time to start dialing that back a little bit and just saying, we can't expect them to put on world-ending shows every time. We can't expect them to put on these barn burners every time they do a takeover, especially because they are doing more takeovers now too. But I think some of the fault with this lies on just some of the stories that they're building right now. I don't feel like the main event, as interesting and as fun as the match was, I don't think that it was good for the future of NXT. I think it was good for Karrion Kross, but I don't know if that was the story that I'm really the most invested in NXT right now. We've definitely been more invested in the main event.
If you don't mind sharing?
The story I'm most invested in NXT?
Yeah.
I don't know that I have one.
Hit row for me right now. You guys know how I love Swerve, kill shot.
Okay.
I'm kind of all in on where this hit row thing goes.
But that's a faction, not a storyline.
Not yet. You're sure?
Like, what storyline is engaging to you right now?
Nothing.
Is it Santos and Bronson having a beef?
No.
Is it the $1 million storyline? Is it Mercedes and Zaya having beef? Is it Kushida having cruiserweight open challenges? Is it what?
The last one that gripped
whatever
me,
the main event title picture is, like all those guys, Adam Cole and O'Reilly possibly still having, like what story is there to make you invested?
The last one that gripped me and made me invest was when Ciampa came back to face Johnny.
That long ago. Wasn't Pat McAfee and Adam Cole?
No.
Wow.
Yeah, it felt like a shtick, like a gimmick. It was a one-off. We had a War Games and it was cool. It was fantastic. I'm not knocking the thing, but to really sink my teeth into, you had 2 years of history there of the betrayal, the breakup of DIY, and you had all of this stuff to invest in. They're not built. They haven't built anything like that. And that's where I'm struggling, is investing. Real quick, Jay over in YouTube threw in a $5 super chat. Thank you so much, Jay. Said
Thank you.
when they went to Wednesday to counter AEW Dynamite, something fell flat for NXT. Do you think that's what it was?
That definitely. I mean, they Triple H will say to the end of time that they didn't change anything, but yet they would counter program big matches and big moments right against AEW's big moments. Like they were definitely changing up
going
the show and trying
live
to
made
do
a
things.
difference.
Yeah, I mean, and going to 2 hours made a difference, and there's a lot of stuff, and not being able to go on the road. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's been making a difference in NXT. But it's definitely, I think it's unfortunate to say, because it's not a bad product right now by any stretch, and I want to just clarify that. But it is the worst it's been, at least in the last 5 years or so.
And even that's still good.
There was a down patch right before and into the pandemic where it was pretty bad. I think it was worse than this. But it was, and again, bad relatively. But it's just not electrifying the way that it once was.
Are we suffering? I love this conversation. This is a great talking point. Are we suffering from just too much goddamn wrestling on TV right now? Is it so oversaturated between everything that we literally have wrestling every night of the week on TV now? And I'm sitting here going, are we just has the bar just been raised so high that if it's not the most eyeball bashing thing we've ever seen, it's gonna go, eh.
What's your favorite food?
Cheeseburgers.
Okay. Think of like the best 5 cheeseburgers you ever had.
Okay.
If you could have those 5 days a week and then 2 days off, those cheeseburgers.
Yeah.
How fast would you get until you get sick of them?
Pretty quick. Okay.
I
mean, a month, and then you're just like, oh god.
Okay, I gotta take a break.
No more cheeseburger. Maybe I'll go get a salad.
Right. See, I think the difference is that to me, wrestling isn't cheeseburgers; it's sushi, and I could eat different kinds of sushi every night of the week, and if it's really good, I could do it all the time.
And it's still in the category of sushi. It's
very big. It's a big category, right? There's a lot of sushi out there, a lot of different kinds of sushi. One night I could have a whole bunch of nigiri. Another night I could have rolls. So I could have a sashimi night, a poke bowl night, whatever. All different kinds, all different iterations, as long as it's really good. If I start getting a whole bunch of sushi that's just lower quality, like maybe it's not real crab, right? Maybe, but my point is that really good wrestling is like really good sushi.
Wrap it up, B.
I can have it every night of the week.
I hear you.
As long as it's good.
As long as it's, and that's yes.
And if I start not having as like the more mediocre sushi I have, the more mediocre wrestling I have, the more I'm likely to get sick of sushi and be like, okay, tonight I want a cheeseburger.
So that's kind of where I was going. Have we filled up our schedules with so much wrestling now that in order to fill up all of these time slates that they have they just started putting filler content in there instead of investing in actual creative that's really good? We definitely, like, we even do the shows that we do. We even do like the top 2 to 3 storylines, and then it's kind of all the other stuff.
That's just more because
right?
We'd start boring people if we really got into everything. But Nick, we got to wrap this up too, because this is supposed to just be a recap show, not a discussion on the nature of modern wrestling.
No, but it's a good point, because we had what should be a fantastic card tonight, and here we are at the end of it going,
yeah. I am doing, and that's a good point. I am kind of like going, it was a solid B show. And takeovers always used to be solid A's.
Yep.
And I'm kind of wondering what happened. Is it the programming? Is it us? Is it that there's that much programming out there that we're watching now, that we're consuming? I didn't have a problem before consuming this much content. And that's kind of my point. Is before the pandemic especially, there was so much more content because there was also live wrestling. There's so much more wrestling going on. So much more.
When there's a pay-per-view every month, sometimes a couple of times a month, like it just, like, you want those to be the build-ups, to be the big things. And there's so many of them now. That's kind of what I'm getting at, is like they don't have enough time to breathe, to build to something special.
So you think it's that there's too many takeovers as opposed to having like 4 a year?
Yeah, we used to just have a takeover on the weekend of the Big Four.
So let's say that, I mean, if they're doing 8 takeovers a year, 6 takeovers a year, it's still up to them to build storylines that are engaging for that takeover.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not the fact that there's too many takeovers. It's how they build to those. You can build, if you've got a pay-per-view every month, you can build every pay-per-view and have every pay-per-view be a crescendo moment. You just have to build properly to them. So I argue it has nothing to do with the number of pay-per-views or takeovers or big moments. It's all about how you're building to them.
Yeah.
And that comes down to creative. That comes down to how they're going week to week.
Totally.
So that's, I think, where NXT is stumbling right now, frankly.
Yep. We'll give you that.
But, Nick, that brings us to the end of the show. Pick'ems, I did beat you by 1 here because of that one coin flip match. It was fair is fair.
Beat me.
You know what, Nick? Any given Sunday, except WrestleMania.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall, do we got to do any catching up here, Nick? I think we got a couple.
Yeah, we got a
thrown in
couple.
there.
Costanza throwing 100 bits. That was a while back. Tag teams in WWE. Nick, what are you smoking? Cloud Nerds. Watermelon apple. It's delicious. Thank you very much, Costanza. Kyle throwing 100 bits said, it met expectations, basically. A C by TakeOver standards. It reminds me a lot of how TakeOver San Antonio was, which was kind of meh outside of Seth showing up. That was 2015. Is that what you're...
That was a while back. And that was like
That
the
was a long
one
time ago.
blip. That was like the one blip where everyone's kind of like, wow, that show wasn't as good. You go back and watch San Antonio now, that show is sick.
Yeah.
Comparatively. He's right, though. It's a C on the NXT scale. That's a good way to put it. It's a B on any other metric, B+.
If you look
NXT
at Portland and 25 and some of the ones that we've had
Brooklyn,
in the last couple of years, Brooklyn 4, God almighty, those were some killer shows. Kyle threw another 100 bits in, said they have built things. They have things built, such as Dakota and Raquel, the Way breakup, crowning Kyle O'Reilly, but we're stuck in mid-build of these long-term stories. I agree with that to an extent, but we're at a point now where, and we don't need to go back and rehash all of these talking points, but it's, again, like we said, it feels like we're stuck in the mud a little bit. We're treading water. Where do we go now that Kross has basically annihilated the top of the card?
If your big story across your entire company is the Way's long-term breakup angle and index, if that's your big story with all the talent they have there and Raquel and Dakota just being a team, if those are your big stories, there's a problem. There's a problem.
I mean, they had the Undisputed Era breakup was electric a little bit. Like we had some good matches out of it.
Yeah.
It had a bzzz, it had a moment. The Way?
But yeah, Nick, we're both a little bit bearish on this show, I hate to say, but it's, again,
I didn't want to be.
One more time, it was not a bad show. It just wasn't up to the standards.
I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed.
I'm just disappointed. But luckily, they've got Tuesday, Kushida with an open challenge. They got the Tornado Tag match. That should be a baller show. Again, NXT every week is still a solid show.
Yep.
We're just saying it's not what it used to be, and we're seeing a trend. And that's a little worrisome. That's
Great
all.
American Bash coming up as well. Another feature episode of NXT. I think that's 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Or is it going to be around July 4th? What it is? Yeah, it's about 2 weeks, I think, around July 4th.
It's not July 4th. It's going to be a really busy weekend. Yeah. But it's going to be a lot of fun, and it's going to be a lot of fun when we're back on Tuesday, because not only are we talking about Monday Night Raw, we'll also be talking about AEW Dynamite, which went on last night, because dear God Almighty, they just want to throw a monkey wrench into our show, don't they, Nick?
They absolutely do.
Got to keep the BWO brothers down.
Yeah.
But we'll be back on Tuesday to talk about all of that. Thank you guys for joining us tonight over there on Twitch, on Facebook, on YouTube. You guys are awesome for joining us in Discord during the actual show. We do that on every pay-per-view, although we will sadly not be doing it for Hell in a Cell. We do apologize. We'll be skipping Hell in a Cell and doing the recap for that on Tuesday. So sorry about that. We promise to make it up to you, everybody out there. Thank you to all of our patrons. As always, you guys are absolutely amazing, and just I love every single one of you. I want to hug all of you, and soon I'll be able to, because all of this nonsense will be done.
Thank you, everybody, for all the bits and subs over on Twitch. Shout out to Jay for the super chat over on YouTube. Thank you very much, everybody. But we will see you guys on Tuesday. Linktree.com/BWO. Head over and like, share, subscribe, do all the things. Make sure you give a thumbs up on all the videos and the content and the posts and all the good stuff. We love you guys for it. It's the best way to support us. We really appreciate it.
Indeed.
But until Tuesday, my name is Nick Howell. You can find me on Twitter at DataCenterDude.
And thank you, Jesse. We'll get you in a little bit. My name is Surian Dangerous.
Hang on. Well, we can read it now. I hadn't pushed the button yet.
Okay, fantastic, because Jesse did throw in 100 bits last second. She said, another big thing, no titles change hands tonight. Why? Because they're all new title holders. Hard to be as invested when we know everyone's keeping their title exactly. It's just a matter of bad timing on their part, and that's because they didn't build it.
I think we even said that on Friday night when we were doing the show. It's like,
so
there's probably not going to be any titles changing hands here.
Yeah, it's crazy to have a show where all your title holders are new. It doesn't feel like they're going to change hands. Yeah. But thank you, Jesse, as you were, Nick.
Convalescing. My name is Nick Howell. You can find me on Twitter at DataCenterDude.
And I'm Sir Ian Dangerous. You can find me on Twitter at Sir Ian Dangerous.
But by God!
Would somebody stop the damn match?
This show is part of the Orbital Jigsaw Network. For more episodes, subscribe to us on iTunes, Google Play, or Stitcher Radio. For details and show notes from each episode, check us out, orbitaljigsaw.com.